we're going to start with Manchester United. Jamie, there's been a development on Marcus Rashford. Tell us.
We're talking about Marcus Rashford for a change in this transfer window, yeah. We understand that Marcus Rashford's preference is to join Barcelona. As we saw with the dual Dani Olmo thing, it's very complicated with Barcelona at the moment in terms of space for salary with outgoings. They've not formalised their interest yet. Borussia Dortmund have engaged with Manchester United over terms of a loan deal just in case they proceed with a move for him. AC Milan, it seems, have now turned their focus away from Rashford and are sort of solely focused on the Kyle Walker deal. Not that they're comparable players, but Kyle Walker is occupying most of their attention at the moment. But I think all options are still on the table with Marcus Rashford, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the key, what Jamie said there. All options still on the table. We started January with tentative interest from West Ham United. So this is an interesting one. Sounds like it could even go down to the final week, potentially. And we're also told he could even stay at Manchester United. And let's face it, the result the other night against Brighton, the players haven't set the world alight, and Marcus Rashford wasn't included in that.
All right, he could stay at Manchester United. What about Alejandro Garnacho, Michael? Will he stay?
Well, this is a really interesting one because it sounds like Antonio Conte is a big fan. And we know Antonio Conte's doing pretty well with Premier League signings so far, hasn't he? And he likes Alejandro Garnacho. Initial approach, which was just shy of £40 million, knocked back. But they are under the impression, this is a key here, they are under the impression they could potentially do business around the £60 million mark. Of course, we're going to go back into talking about pure profit. So let's see if there's going to be a compromise between Napoli and Manchester United.
All right, OK, let's stay with United. There's so much to get through. Let's whiz through it. Jamie, they linked with Patrick Dorgu from Lecce. How close are they to getting him? And if they are close, are they going to have to fight others to get him?
They look as if they will have to, because there's a slight fly in the ointment here from Manchester United. Napoli are trying to sign Patrick Dorgu. They're prepared to sign him and let him stay at Lecce on loan for the rest of the season, which would obviously appeal to Lecce, you would think. An agreement is close, we understand, Sky Italy are telling us, between those two clubs. However, if Manchester United were to offer around £34 million, €40 million, that could change the dynamic. So this is one to watch. Okay. You ever been to Lecce, by the way? It's lovely. Lovely spot, Lecce.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Antony, is he on his way out of United?
Yes, Real Betis close to completion. A verbal agreement exists with no optional obligation. It's a straight loan. Formalities being concluded before he undertakes a medical. Let's not forget, he was signed from Ajax for around £85 million in the summer of 2022. There's a key here, though. His contract is up, yes, in 2027, but it includes the club-held option of a further year. We're hearing this more and more with deals and contracts now, and with reason. It was a huge transfer. He needs a fresh start. Hasn't totally worked out. And, of course, Ruben Amorim needs some players in as well.
Right, OK, let's get to Manchester United. And is another club trying to swoop in on Patrick Dorgu? United are interested in him, but Napoli are now trying to sign him. Napoli are preparing to sign him and let him stay on loan at Lecce until the end of the season. An agreement close. However, if United were to offer around £34 million, it could change the dynamic. It's our understanding that United officials are due in Italy to talk to Lecce about Dorgu and Napoli about Alejandro Garnacho. Flex, on that news, what is your reaction to that? Does that indicate that Garnacho could potentially be on the way in this transfer window?
I think it's the last week or so. There's been a lot of news about Garnacho and reports linking him to moves away, and it seems like the line from the club has definitely been that they're not actively trying to sell him, and players aren't actively trying to leave. We know the Marcus Rashford situation, but I think it's a real possibility that Manchester United would look at a substantial/significant bid if it were put on the table for Alejandro Garnacho. I think if you're looking at Napoli, they now have the money through from the Kvaratskhelia deal, so there is money there to be spent. And if you're looking towards Chelsea, which we'll talk a little bit about later, they've also got money to spend as well. So I think it'll be really interesting in this window to see what happens with Garnacho. Manchester United, of course, with the PSR situation, that would represent 100% profit, which they could use to reinvest into the squad. But can they guarantee a replacement for Garnacho in this window? One that is of suitable quality, that is part of Ruben Amorim's squad, of what he would like the squad to look like. That's a different ballgame, because you can't be letting Alejandro Garnacho go. You've already let Antony go. Marcus Rashford's looking to leave. If there aren't ready-made replacements for these players in this window, Manchester United will be severely weaker. And you can look at Manchester United now and think, what does weaker look like? But it would really be a lot worse if you give away 3 other players without replacement.
In terms of incomings, Olivia, Patrick Dorgu is clearly a name of interest to a number of clubs now. Why do United want to try and sign him?
Yeah, as we reported upon Ruben Amorim's appointment, that sort of left wing-back role has been circled as the sort of priority position for Manchester United and was the one transfer highly likely to happen in this window. Patrick Dorgu is one of a number of options United have been looking at. The Denmark international is more affordable than their other top options, such as Nuno Mendes and Milos Kerkez. Just 20 years old and has earned rave reviews from those who've watched him regularly over in Italy. Amongst Serie A defenders, he ranks first for opposition box touches and second for shots taken with 34, you can see at the bottom there. So clearly a threat going forward. He's versatile, can play on either the left or the right. He has pace to burn, making him suitable for those wide roles in Amorim's system. Defensively, he is reliable but needs to further develop his overall defensive skills. Strong in tackling, ranking 10th in the league for defenders this season, but it is behind in interceptions there, 35th. In summary, Dorgu is already demonstrating his potential in the competitive environment of Serie A with Lecce. But with continued development and refinement, he looks set to become a standout defender in those years to come. I mean, Flex, with those in mind, looking at those stats you can see there, is this a situation where you feel like United are going to have to pay up, especially with Napoli also being interested? Is it a case of paying up and getting their man, or from those stats you feel like you need him?
From that point of view, if Manchester United have identified him as a player that they really would like under Ruben Amorim, yes, if they see him as that important, you're going to have to pay. What I find interesting here in this news today, with the breaking news of sort of Napoli trying to get involved in this deal, is the fact that they're willing to buy him and leave him on loan at Lecce to develop further, or they've probably got different needs to Manchester United, whereas United, what we're being told is that they want to get him in now. So very interesting how they see it as development. You can stay in Serie A and work on your game, and Manchester United saying, get here now, we need help. But if they want their man, Olivia, absolutely, they're going to have to pay for him. And I think now Lecce clearly have the leverage there because there's two clubs interested in him. Manchester United clearly in big need of reinvestment into the squad and to kick it on. And they know that. So now that price, and if Manchester United procrastinate on this and take a while, that price is likely to keep increasing.
And Dan, where do we stand with Marcus Rashford? He's not played for Manchester United for more than a month now. Do you think he'll be on the move this month? Time's ticking now.
I think it's really complex when someone's got as high a salary package as Marcus Rashford has got. We know some of the other leagues who may want to bring in this type of player, they don't have the wage structures that would enable them to pay a high proportion of Marcus Rashford's wages. He's almost in limbo at the moment, and it's always difficult when a player's kind of taken out the firing line like Marcus Rashford has been at the moment, whether that's a joint decision or whether that's a club decision. We're seeing more and more players that are perhaps moving away are taken out in the January market and will either be sold, loaned or reintegrated in February. But with Rashford, I almost feel like Manchester United could do with him playing right now. Whilst he's not there, you feel like his value is almost depreciating. I get that if you go, Manchester United's ideal world would be he'd go out on loan, do well, and then they'd be able to get a high transfer fee for him that would act as pure profit. But whilst he's not playing at the moment, I don't really feel like that does Manchester United any favours. And I certainly don't think it does the player any favours either. I know he's training alone and he's working on keeping himself fit, maybe with a mind that if he doesn't get a move, he can reintegrate himself into Manchester United. But I just wonder, Flex, how has it gone too far now for him to be able to reintegrate himself? I
think when you say about who does it really help with it being in this situation? Of course, you look at Manchester United, say 13th in the Premier League, not playing very well. Surely you need Marcus Rashford. But I think Ruben Amorim's plan and vision is much bigger than that. He's basically saying if a player has come out and said, I need a new challenge, and how can I build with this player? What am I showing to the rest of the dressing room that I'm willing to work on a player, give minutes to a player who says he essentially is not in this fight with us. His mind is elsewhere. So I think Ruben Amorim's principles are, it's a difficult decision to make, and if you lose in football matches, it doesn't look like a good decision, but I think his principles are, I need to establish and ascertain who is with us and who is not. And Marcus Rashford has said in an interview that he's ready for a new challenge. So that made it quite easy, I think, for Ruben Amorim to stand on that hill.
Yeah, Flex, we understand that Rashford's been doing additional training sessions at the club's training base. Yeah. Do you think the fans would welcome him back if he was reintegrated into that side?
I think look, at Old Trafford, the match-going fans always want to get behind the player. So I think yes. But I do think there would be a feeling amongst fans that Marcus Rashford would have to prove pretty quickly that he was in the right frame of mind, the right feeling to produce, you know. And of course, football fans, we can change our minds like the weather. If you score loads of goals, yes, it's all forgotten. And football can change very, very quickly. But I do think if he does stay, he would have to show and demonstrate, not just through the best form, but just the application that he's willing to stay and be part of it.
Could be a busy... Now, we discussed Marcus Rashford's future. What about Antony and Alejandro Garnacho? Real Betis are close to agreeing a deal to sign the winger Antony on loan, whilst we're told Garnacho has not been actively looking to leave in this window amid strong interest from Napoli, Chelsea and 3 other clubs. Meanwhile, Manchester United will consider loan offers for Tyrell Malacia in this window. Flex, United fans want an incoming. Do you think we could see that in the form of a left-back from Lecce?
Yeah, Patrick Dorgu is a 20-year-old left-back. He spent time playing at right wing as well this season, quite versatile. And in terms of the profile of player that Ruben Amorim would be looking for, combative, powerful, obviously has the fitness to occupy a full left flank single-handedly. It fits profile-wise, it fits age-wise. A lot of work to do. He's a young player. He's made 4 senior appearances for the Danish national side as well. So one for the future, but especially one for now in terms of coming in and starting the Ruben Amorim era off with his first signing. And look, the left-hand side for Manchester United in terms of the wing-back position and right wing-back, but Ahmad's shown some good versatility there. But especially at left wing-back, it's been a real problem era for Manchester United, as have many other positions, but especially there. All right, Liv.
Sorry.
There's been a lot.
Chelsea were down there.
I know, right? Exactly. You know what it's like.
I know. I can. That's why I was laughing, because I can relate to you, Flex. I know what you're going through when you've got more than one problem in plenty of positions.
But you have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
You have to start somewhere. And Diogo Dalot is a competent footballer. He's an out-and-out right back by trade. He's been playing at left back at times last season, but left wing back he's just really, really struggled and just does not fit with what Amorim's trying to do. So I can see why Patrick Dorgu would be of interest to Manchester United as the first signing potentially under Ruben Amorim.
And Liv, will you be laughing if Alejandro Garnacho becomes a Chelsea player?
I'd actually quite like that.
Yeah.
No, it's a difficult one because I can see why Chelsea would be interested in a winger. Obviously, the situation with Mykhailo Mudryk, we don't really know what's going on there. We haven't really heard much since the first bit of news came out about him. Now, Chelsea have Pedro Neto, they have Jadon Sancho. I think there has been questions sometimes about Alejandro Garnacho's attitude. He has been left out of the squad because of that. Now, I think what's interesting is Noni Madueke is also Chelsea's other winger. Now, he played last night, he scored, albeit it should have been a Trevor Chalobah goal, but wingers want to get goals, and that's what he did. Yet Enzo Maresca still came out after the game and almost criticised him and said, he needs to be better. This is a player that's been in and out of the Chelsea squad because of certain reasons that Maresca has made that final decision on. So I can see why Chelsea would be interested in him. I really like Alejandro Garnacho as a player, still so young, and I think he's quite unique in what he can offer. However, I just think when I look at this Chelsea side, I don't think they're screaming out for a winger. I feel like there's other positions in this team that Chelsea should be prioritising.
And Dan, when it comes to Garnacho, we know he's not actively looking to leave the football club. We know the constraints that United are dealing with from a PSR point of view. Can they afford to let him go, or is it something they need to make happen if they're to reinvest the squad and sign players that fit within Ruben Amorim's system, like a left wing back?
Yeah, I'm a bit scared to talk in case Liv bursts out laughing when I talk, but it feels like maybe apart from 2 or 3 at Manchester United that no player is untouchable, that if they're to shape this squad and rebuild this squad in the mould that Amorim wants, sacrifices may have to be made at some point. And Garnacho is a fantastic player. He's got a lot of excellent attributes and he's had some brilliant moments in a Manchester United shirt. I don't think he's quite at the Ahmad level in terms of being untouchable at Manchester United, where they wouldn't entertain it. And if someone offers enough money, and Manchester United could then say, get in a wing back that suits the system. Like Flex says, they've got to do it slowly in stages. They're not going to be able to just bring in 5 or 6 players in one window and shape a squad in the way that Amorim wants. So if Garnacho going was to offer the flexibility, because realistically, where does he fit in the way Amorim plays? We know he wants to play with those 2 number 10s and wing backs. I don't think Garnacho is either of those things. So I think if the right offer comes in, I certainly think Manchester United would entertain it and would probably be right to, even though I think he's a good player.
OK, we've got a little bit more breaking transfer news for you now. Motherwell rejected a bid from Udinese in the region of £2.5 million for Lennon Miller. It does not meet the club's valuation for the Scotland midfielder. Now, if you're just joining us, Aston Villa have signed fullback Andres Garcia from Levante for an undisclosed fee. On the way, Jamie Carragher says Arsenal won't win the title unless they sign a striker. Is he right? We'll discuss that next.
Gave him a headline. It certainly has been a headline ever since he said that. First of all, what did you make of a manager saying that? Would you have ever said about any of your team, even in the utmost frustration, I think this is the worst team in the history of the football club?
I hope not, but I mean, I've done plenty of similar things equally as bad, and I'm pretty sure now he regrets it, because to be fair, I think that to be fair, to say this is the worst team, you have to go back a long way. Manchester United is a club with a massive history. They've been in the second division a couple of times in there. They might not have been very good teams either. But I think what he's trying to point out is that he's not really too happy with the team that he's taken over and the quality of the players. So I think he's certainly having a dig at them. And I've seen a few players on the TV in the last couple of days, pundits who've been players, all saying something which I would totally agree with, that if I was one of the Man United players, I don't think I'd be too happy with the manager coming out and saying that you guys playing in this team are the worst players that Man United have ever had. So he might have given himself that little bit of a harder job to get them back on board, because they certainly won't have taken it kindly. And neither, to some extent, will the new owners of the club, who are doing their best to put money in and make a change. You can't really complain that Man United have not tried to build a team, that they've not tried to put a team together. Unfortunately, it's not gelled, or maybe the players haven't quite been the right ones as yet. But that's life as well. When that happens, you have to get on with it. You can't every time you get a group of players together and there's one or two in there that you don't think they're not 100% for me, you can't just replace them and bring others in, because you're talking hundreds of millions to get the players of the right quality.
So what we saw yesterday was players unhappy on the pitch again, and again the continued discussion about the way Ruben Amorim sets up, and he reiterated there, he will not change and we are going to suffer. So we've seen 11 Premier League games now. We covered the first at Ipswich, we covered the one yesterday right the way through to Brighton. They've yielded 11 points. Eric Ten Hag's last 11 games got 6 more points than Ruben Amorim. So where are we with what he's trying to do with the players he has available, Michael?
Not much further on than right at the outset. I think we all gave him a bit of grace to start with, because you're changing your formation. A lot of these players hadn't experienced it. We'll see the first clip from that Ipswich game here, and lots of players came out afterwards saying it was very different. We're going to take a little bit of time to understand it. However, 70-odd days now he's been in charge, 15 games. Yeah. It's plenty for players that are at the top of their profession, really. Premier League players, a lot of international players. They should really be grasping the nettle a little bit quicker than they are. I'm seeing no real improvement. Let's just have a look right from the outset here. I mean, if we look at the formation, this is when the goalkeeper's actually getting the ball, but that's the back three. Then we've got the 2 midfield players, the 2 wing backs here, and then you've got this almost like the 2 number 10s, the 2 attacking midfielder players, and the 1 attacker. So that's in general what he wants to play. And there was a lot of confusion in this first game against Ipswich. This is early on in the game. This is when it really worked. The ball ended up in the back of the net. And what we also know is that he likes 4 players in the box, wide players, one of the attacking players and the attacker, and then almost somebody that's going to sweep up on the edge of the box. Now, let's fast forward to yesterday against Brighton, and some of the old problems, let's say, or some of the problems that don't seem to be fixed, Roy, are resurfacing. Now, if I just point out the back three here, this is the back three. So Yoro's gone into midfield, almost picking up his man. Soon, De Ligt will go into the midfield, picking up his man as well. And here's your 2 wing-backs that have been penned back by the high, wide men. Now, let's just clear that a minute and just slowly move it forward. Where does this go? How on earth can one long ball come from here into here and give Brighton a chance? We'll just move it slowly, and it's mainly De Ligt's role in this, because this is the area, isn't it?
Yep.
What if you were coaching this side? Where would you spot as the?
Well, first of all, as a defender, if you stop it there, you've got to accept there's no pressure on the ball. He's got all the time in the world. He sees everything going forward. He can play the ball forward wherever he likes.
Wherever he wants.
He could play it into here if he wanted to. He could certainly play it over here across the player. Or, more importantly, he can play it where you don't want it. Behind your defence.
Exactly.
So the first thing is we're talking about marking distances. You know, he's got to get his marking distances right. He's got to be aware that the long ball can come and make certain that if it goes over his head, he should be first to the ball. But I think that De Ligt in this situation should also be thinking about that space there. I think he should also be thinking, hold on, you know, he could get it in there, but that's not the end of the world if it happens. But if he does get it in here and he outruns my colleague here, we're in trouble. So
Can I just ask you a question there. Is that De Ligt making a personal decision on the pitch, or is that the way he's been set up and asked to play?
I couldn't tell you that because I don't know. You know, can I tell you in my
Do you think if he was in a back four, he'd be comfortable making that
I would be
decision?
very unhappy about him coming out there towards this player and leaving that space there, because if it goes in, there's no chance of Maguire getting across. Now, you could argue that in an ideal world, as the defender moves the ball here and looks forward to play the ball into this sort of area, I would want him in there and him. I'd want them both coming across, really, because this player, as he moves across there, becomes less dangerous. They can't get the ball to him. But I think... And I see it very often in a lot of games today. Defenders, you've said about Yoro coming out there, well, you can get away with that because you've still got 4 defenders behind the ball. But you can't afford now for him to start coming out as well, because you've just opened up this space where if the player on the ball is good enough and can get the ball in there, and he hasn't got his marking distances right, it's a goal.
Yeah, because as you're talking about, I'm thinking to myself, these are the two centre halves. Now, virtually, he's on it. I don't think that these wide players, I don't think that Amorim is thinking, right, these wing backs, he doesn't necessarily want them playing as full. He doesn't want at home five defenders in a
So is that
back five.
Is that them not grasping the message, or is that credit to the opposition?
I think it's Manchester United not grasping this way of playing. I mean, look, the ball is halfway. Here's the ball here, Steve. The ball is halfway. He's still moving forward towards this man. That's half of it. That's not even the danger. This is the danger. And you know what? If that ball does come in to this man here, he's got plenty of time. If he was starting here, he's got plenty of time to see it and get to it, or let his man here.
Yeah. There's
lots of options.
Let the midfield player go.
It's the lesser of the evils.
Yeah.
But, I mean, astonishingly, the ball, it's not even difficult place. This is an easy ball. Everybody will say, oh, look, what a great assist, what a great ball. Knocking it into acres of space and just, chipping it over the back four, or the back three, I should say, is it's not hard what teams are doing again. It's not complicated football that's getting teams in against Manchester United at the moment.
OK, so the big question, I'm fascinated by this, from a coaching point of view. He's walked in mid-season to a group of players that aren't his, but he knew that when he took the job mid-season. In all your experience, when you've gone into clubs and inherited players, and you may have a way you want to play, which he quite clearly does, and you've realised, I don't have the tools to do... Have you tweaked? Have you changed? He's saying he won't, because every game as a manager, he's played a back three since he started managing. So what do you make of his decision to say that he won't change with this set of players, to persist trying to get the message across?
Well, I don't know that you can do that, because, I mean, the whole thing about being a coach or a manager is winning games and getting results, and you can't just, suggest that my philosophy is more important than the team getting points and winning games. You've got to understand that is an important factor. But I've got to say, I don't think, as we've analysed that goal, it's whether you've got a back three or a back four. It wouldn't make any difference if people were making those very clear, in my opinion, wrong decisions in terms of their basic defending. That is, the 1v1 and the marking distance of Mazraoui, the position of De Ligt coming out of the back four when he shouldn't be coming out of the back four, even Harry Maguire. If I asked him, I'm sure he'd say I could have come across a bit. He wouldn't have got.
So you're saying that's not down to any confusion by us being playing a back three instead of a back four?
I think that's just a question of basic knowledge of defending.
It's the same principles in a back four.
Absolutely, it's exactly the same principles.
If there's no pressure on the ball, Steve, you don't end up running into midfield, whether you're a 3 or a 4.
No, that's right.
It's the same principles of defending no matter what. These are players that should be experienced, you know, international players that are just making horrific decisions at the moment. I don't know why, in fact, I say at the moment, they have been for a long time. So is it just, I've tried to almost protect them in my mind, thinking, do you know what, they're all lacking confidence, changing managers all the time, surely they're better than they are. But now I'm starting to question,
he's
are
had
they
11 Premier League games, and Eric Ten Hag's last 11 games yielded 6 more points. And they changed because that wasn't good enough.
Absolutely, yeah. And he's, you know, he's a new man, fresh ideas, fresh players maybe coming in the future. Something had to change. I mean, but they might change him as well in time. You never know. But I mean, I like what he says. I like his mannerisms. I like the way he's straight. There's a lot I like about him. But I'm even starting. I think Manchester United fans are starting to think, after all that time, you know, it's not that he's been here 2 minutes. As I say, 15 games so far, and you see no improvement. Now, if there's no improvement, if he can't get any more out of these players, he's going to have to change the players.